Hello, hello. Welcome to day 4. Yes, I have makeup on, and yes, I am completely dressed. And the reason being is I had a really important meeting early this morning, and so I kind of had to put my makeup on. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to be back at my usual routine, working from home, being in bed until whatever time I want to be in bed by. So yesterday was an interesting one for me because it took long and like going over all of my relationships and my strengths was kind of tough because I know myself. I get very irritated very quickly if something seems like a lot of work. So I decided to divide it up. And today we're going to be adding onto that. So instead of like writing everything out at once and feeling like, oh, I have to finish this journal in, 1 hour or however much time you give yourself in one day, think of it as an ongoing project. So write what you know now, and then as you go on and things start coming up for you, add it to the journal. So for example, yesterday I wrote about my basic relationships that I have. And that's my spouse, that's my parents, my best friends, and closest family members, my daughter. And I think about those relationships and I write what I know about those. And then tomorrow, or even today, I might go, now I can write about my brother-in-law and I can write about my in-laws. So don't feel pressured to do everything in one day, because when we do that, we're going to lose steam, we're going to get annoyed, we're going to start resenting the whole process, and that's not what it's about. So today is mostly about focusing on our basic human needs. And this one is really important for me because I want to feel like I matter. That to me is a fundamental part of satisfying a human need within me. So we have to think about our goals and how much those goals impact our emotional well-being. So humans need 3 things. This is what Dr. Gillihan says in his book. Autonomy. So that is the ability to decide for ourselves what we want to do without being controlled by other people. So we don't want other people to tell us how we should be living our lives. So that falls directly into our relationships as well. Do you have somebody in your life who is controlling? What can you do about that? Because when somebody controls you or makes decisions for you and you feel smothered by that, that has a psychological effect on you, of course, because they're not being autonomy supportive. And so I know in my business as a coach, and also in the field that I'm going to go into as a psychologist, it is very important to be autonomy supportive, to work together as a team. So the other thing is relatedness. So having meaningful and satisfying connections to other people. So not just, oh, this person is an acquaintance, oh, I know this person, oh, I have 5,000 friends on Facebook. That's very different. How can I really relate to people? So something that I like to do on social media, because social media has the ability to make us feel very distant from people. It can bring us closer, but at the same time, you can feel like, oh my gosh, I'm the small fish in a big sea. I have, all of these friends, but I really know very little about them. And one of my friends in New York City said it best. I said, oh my gosh, you have such an amazing life. Like, you're always out at events. You do all these charity things. And he looked at me and he said, you know what I've noticed about New York City? The more people I'm around, the lonelier I feel. Because we're spending all of our time trying to interact with thousands of people instead of just saying, you know what, I want a cluster of people, like a little group of people that I have very meaningful relationships with. And that is very important to me. So on social media, I'm not all about like, oh, I'm going to like somebody's post and that's going to be it. When somebody interacts with me on social media and I go to their profile and I'm like, yeah, like I have a lot in common with this person. I can reach out to them and be like, hey, by the way, I love English bulldogs too. That's just a little example, but really it is about connection. And in a world where social media is starting to take over, and who knows where we're going to be. I mean, now with what's happening in the world with all of this social isolation stuff, I think people are relying very heavily on social media for connection. So make it count. Create meaningful relationships there. Even if you don't see that person, often you can still have that intimacy on social media with them. And then competence. How do you feel in your work? How are you contributing to your relationships? How are you utilizing your talents? I know that I went through a time in my life where I felt like I had absolutely no impact on the world. And that was really, really tough for me. I got to a point where I was like, is this it? Like, I'm not using any of my strengths. And money is a big, big factor for me. I want to know that I can take care of myself, that I'm competent to take care of myself financially, to contribute to my family financially, to take care of my daughter. You know, that is a very, very big part of my emotional well-being. The ability to say, I have used my talents, so I'm not just stuck in a 9-to-5 job, which unfortunately a lot of people are going through, and really sometimes there is nothing you can do about it. People don't always have these choices. But I do think that being unfulfilled in what you do causes a lot of anxiety. I know that it certainly does for me, and that's why I decided to go into the mental health field. That's why I'm getting my master's now in counseling and then PhD in psychology, and I think that I've said this like 1,000 times, so you almost think I'm such a pompous prat. But anyway, it's because I want to matter, because I love helping people. And that's one of my strengths, is the fact that people open up to me very easily. And I'm compassionate. So how am I going to use that talent, that strength that I have, to make a difference in the world? And to get paid for it. I think sometimes we forget that even if we're doing good and we are providing a service where we are, helping people, it is okay to get paid for that. I think it's very important that we remember this. So when these 3 needs are met, we're going to feel a lot better. We are going to have less shame, less depression, less loneliness. And we're going to be meeting our goals. It'll be easier for us to set goals and to grow out of those 3 things. So today I really want you to think about education and career. So what impact does your career have on you? How are things in your work life? Do you work from home, or is your primary job to take care of your children, which I think is such an admirable job to have? A lot of people stay at home, moms and dads, where they take care of the children 100% of the time, and that is a full-time job. How does that fulfill you? Do you sometimes feel like, oh, I really, really miss adult conversation? So how can I bring that back into my life? So when we have depression and anxiety, such as what I often struggle with, it also impacts my work life. So there's a link between those 2. So the questions for today is, do you love your work? Do you find it to be meaningful? Do you enjoy who you work with? I love my clients. Are you overextended? So are you just doing way, way, way too much work? Constantly feeling like you don't have time for everything? Do you struggle with what is demanded of you at home? Do you feel like you're always the one cleaning, you're always the one cooking, and your spouse isn't doing much? Are you bored with what you're doing? Do you feel like the talents that you have are not being put to use? So I want you to think about those questions. I'm going to be writing it down in my journal. I know that it's a lot, and you don't have to do it all in one day, but it is going to give you something to think about. So I'm very happy that you joined me on day 4. Let's keep going. Tomorrow I will be coming to you in my pajamas. So yes, enjoy it, and we'll speak soon.